Welcome back to the channel. We're going to continue working on our 2012 Kia Sorento SX. Last time we got the front end all apart, we found out what we needed, and we got all of our parts used and in the right color. Couldn't ask for an easier job. So let's start throwing this thing all back together. So we had the painting gnome paint up our apron. It had that little scrape on it from where the radiator support went back. And there was some previous work on here that was going to start rusting if we didn't take care of the bare metal. So we just kind of sanded it all down and painted it all up. They definitely changed this fender. Looks like they went with a semi-gloss and a 1/2-inch nap roller. So we're not going to worry about the paint. We're just throwing this fender in the pile anyway. So let's get this off of here, and we have all our used parts off of our front end. So let's get it all back together. We'll start by pulling the wheel liner out. Get the little push-in clips that have the Phillips head, give the illusion of coming out. This is the actual reason I didn't take this fender off before. I didn't want to have to mess with those stupid things. So we'll take the screws out of the wheel flare. Those are actual screws. A couple more push pins. So far they've all been friendly, but I know how that really goes. That wheel liner out of there. Toss that in a pile. I'll pop all the clips off of our wheel flare, wheel opening molding, whatever you want to call it. Just squeeze the tabs in the back and they pop off. I'll save as many of those clips as I can, and maybe I can make some money selling them to people that have no patience and just tear them all off. You know, like body shops that aren't poor. Pull out the little insulator that's in the back of the fender. And now we can see the rest of those clips. It slides underneath the rocker molding, so gotta slide it out of here. Toss that in our pile. Now we can get to the bolts on the bottom of the fender. There's one inside. So we had to take the wheel liner out. And the bottom of our fender is free. So now we'll take the top off. Yay, those push pins. 1, 2, and 3. So far, so good. Pull that little filler out of there. Now we can see the bolts on the top of the fender. And there it goes. There's one on the back. It also goes to the hood hinge. We'll open up our door. And there's one hidden inside there. Right out of there. And our fender's ready to come off. In the pile. Say it with me. Somebody's been here before. That's an aftermarket fender. Their parts are normally made in Korea, not Taiwan. So somebody has definitely changed this fender. We'll unbolt our hood hinge. This one is definitely bent. Driver's side might be bent. In the pile. But we're going to change them both anyway because, well, we have them. So we'll pull the little rubber filler out of there. And unbolt the top of the fender. And then we can get an extension with a swivel and a 12mm. And we'll get down to those hinges. I don't want to take the fender off just to get the hinges off. So we'll spend a little bit more time getting the hinges off and a lot less time realigning the fender. Once the bolts are out of there, and hopefully we don't drop them down into Narnia, we just slide that hood hinge out of there. Still working on not dropping those bolts in Narnia. And we'll toss that in the pile. I'll throw our washer bottle in there. This came with our used front end. There was quite a weight for these from Kia as well. So I'm glad we got a used front end. It slides in a tab on the top. And there's 2 bolts that hold it in. And we'll plug our wiring harness in and our washer pump. Now we're going to transfer our washer lines over to our new pump. I left the lines connected to the old pump so I knew which ones went where. There's only one pump for both the front and the rear. It just works forward or backward depending on which one you're trying to wash.
We'll clip the lines into our washer bottle and clip them in along the apron. We're all good to go.
I ordered a pizza, so until the pizza girl arrives with or without a pizza, we'll throw the interior back in this thing that we had to remove, not because of any part of the accident. Well, it was a culmination of many accidents of spilling everything. So it actually turned out pretty good. It took my detailer a full, I think, 10 hours on this thing to get it clean, but he got it clean. So let's throw the seats back in it, bolt them down, and hopefully by then the pizza girl will be here and we can throw the front end together.
So we'll drop the front passenger seat in there. We chose this seat because, well, it was the closest to where I was standing. So we'll lay it back, tilt it forward just a little bit so that we can plug the wires in. They give you enough that you could tilt it back a little bit, but not all the way. So we'll clip them all in there. When we got all the wires plugged in, we can set it down and bolt the front of it in. Now I'll move the seat forward so that we can access the bolts in the rear, and we'll bolt those in. Work them down to manufacturer specs. And we'll clip in little covers. We'll clip in the covers on the front. Use our belt molding installation tool for that. And that's all we have time for, because in record time, the pizza delivery girl is here. Probably would have set some kind of record had she actually brought a pizza, but she didn't, so we're just gonna use her for her muscles to help me put this hood on. I got the difficult side. I have to slide that hood hinge underneath the fender. It's still attached to the hood. I don't know why I didn't take it off. It is self-aligning. But I'm not the smartest all the time. So I'll line my side up. She'll start the bolts on her side. And we'll promote her to a prop rod. And I'll get the other side lined up and tighten those bolts down. She got them started, so at least we don't ruin a windshield. All the hood adjustment is done at the bottoms of the hinges, so I'm using the old marks to try to get them back where they were before. Hopefully that gets us pretty close to where it belongs. And the dog decided our camera was not positioned correctly, so she moved it for us. I'll tighten down my hinges on my side. And we're going to put a prop rod in there. Send the pizza girl off somewhere else. We can throw a fender up there. Bolt in the bottom, bolt in the middle, and bolt in the top. One more bolt in the inside of the door. And our gap is looking pretty good. Now we're ready to throw the front end up. It is the entire front end. Cooling system, radiator support, even the headlights. All goes in one big piece. So we're going to set it up there. Slide it in between the fenders. We'll throw the bolts in the top so it doesn't end up on the floor. We can connect everything later. And our power steering cooler is trapped underneath. Just want to make sure nothing else is trapped underneath. Everything's looking good. Last thing you want to do is bolt it all up and have to take it back off. So put this last bolt in the top on the passenger side. And now we can lift up a little bit. Tighten it down. And the other side. We can disconnect our power steering lines from our cooler that we left on there so we could drive it around. Just slide the spring clamps back. Yay, spring clamps. And we'll try not to get oil all over the floor. We do have a drain pan down there, so it doesn't matter. We'll pull the lower one off. And connect it to our new cooler that's on our radiator support. Slide our spring clamps up where they belong. Make sure you get the timing right. Nothing worse than out of time spring clamps. Now we'll throw the bumper reinforcement up. We could have left this attached to the radiator support, but well, that makes it heavy and then the pizza girl complains. So we'll bolt in our radiator support and our bumper reinforcement. Tighten up all the bolts. We'll run them all in there first, and then we'll snug them all up later. And once all our bolts are in there, put our ground wires on the side. Then we'll throw our bolts in that hold our bumper reinforcement to the radiator support that are on there for when it's going down the assembly line. Now we're ready to reconnect our hood cable. Clip that together and snap it into its little clamp there. Get in there. Now we can plug in our wiring harness. It happened to be the same harness, same part number. So we didn't have to change anything. We didn't have to fix any broken wires. And the best wire repair is always complete replacement. So we'll just plug in the harness, throw the cover back on the fuse box, and we're done. Now we're going to set Slim down inside the engine compartment and close our hood. See what our gaps look like. See how bad our day is going to be. Not looking too bad so far. Of course, I haven't gone either side yet. Always helps when you pet the car. Puts it at ease. And our gaps are looking pretty good. That body line is supposed to be there. The only real gap you have to worry about is the back of the hood. And it looks a little tight at the top. But so does this side. So I'm not going to fix what the factory didn't. Now we're ready to clip our hood struts on so we can fire Slim. Got to cut payroll. We'll unbolt our half a radiator hose that the junkyard gave us. They just cut it off. Somebody's been here before. They got rid of the pesky spring clamps. That was nice of them. So we'll just unscrew the hose clamp. Slide our hose off of there. Toss that in the pile. Our clamp back on. We're just setting this on there for now. We're going to end up changing that upper radiator hose because I didn't trust it. It did get smashed in between other stuff. So we're going to change that. And at the owner's request, we're also going to change the lower radiator hose. So as soon as Kia gets those for me, we'll put them back on. We're not going to fill it up right now. I just want everything where it belongs. Bolt in our AC condenser. We did put new O-rings on there. And now we'll put our trans lines back on the trans cooler instead of the little loop they were doing before. So we'll slide each end on and then move the spring clamps to the end and we're good to go. This is probably one of the absolute easiest front ends to put on. If you're only putting on a radiator support and cooling, everything just reconnects, all the lines. There's plenty of room to get in there, despite what it looks like with my hand jammed in there. Everything's made to come apart like that, and you can even service this radiator condenser without taking the radiator support out. You still got to pull the bumper off, but it's not anywhere near as bad as, say, a Ford Explorer, where you have to pull the whole radiator support out to get that radiator condenser out at a later date. These are meant to be serviced as an assembly or individually. So, yay Kia. You get my approval. Now we're going to check our washer bottle for leaks by filling it up with washer fluid. It's the washer fluid that actually came in today. Drained it out so I could reuse it. Looks like it's kind of a mixture of the de-icing and regular washer fluid. Almost looks like antifreeze. I hope it's not antifreeze. So that's going to make a mess out of the windshield. And looks like everything's staying in it. So we're good. Found a plug here that needs a friend. So we'll hook those two up. And then we'll bolt in our fender to our radiator support. Same thing on the driver's side. Click. Now we'll bolt our brackets on that hold the bottom of our bumper on. These are the bolts that go through the skid plate. I might be taking these off and putting them back in the skid plate and putting these back on later. And we'll see whichever way is easier. And now we're back to putting our interior in. Throw our driver's seat in here. Lay it back and snap all of our plugs in. We'll set it down and start bolting it in. Put our little caps on there. We'll bolt the front end in. Snap those caps on. Now we're ready to drop our second row in there. We'll pick the big side first. Get the heavy part out of the way. Not to mention, there is a bolt for the seat belt in there. So it's easier to get it in when the other seat's not there. Kind of walk it in there. Guess the pizza girl went back to her delivery route, so I got to do this myself. I should have kept her around for the heavy lifting. So we'll bolt our seat belt in first. Make sure it's lined up. There's a tab for it. And we'll start our bolts in the rear. We'll snug them up, but we're not going to tighten them all the way down just yet. We got to get the ones in the front started. We'll pull the seat up. Start those ones in the front. Once we got them in there, we can tighten those all the way up. And before you give the detailing gnome a hard time, he's not done. He just did the majority of the cleaning. He's going to come back, he'll clean up that sill plate, the rest of the car, and he's going to do the whole interior once again. So I know he missed the bottoms of the seats here. Hopefully he gets it next time. If not, we're not going to pay him in his gnome treats. We'll clip the little covers on. We had to clean these. They were sticky. I don't mind dirty, but sticky bothers me for some reason. We'll bolt the other side in. This side folds forward so that you can get into the third row. So we gotta get those front brackets lined up. The seat's kind of wedged itself in there. We'll start over. There's some studs in the top, and there's bolts in the bottom, in the front. We got to get it lined up on those studs. Seems like it'd be easy, but I seem to be struggling. Pull the seat back. And we'll tighten up the bolts in the front. Now we're ready to toss the third row in here. So we'll set the seat in there and slide it off to the side. And we'll grab the other one, slide that one in. I'm just lining up the bolts in the back. Hopefully that gets the front where it belongs. And we'll bolt the front in. Slip our little covers on there. Snap them in. Then we'll fold the seats down. Now we can get to our bolts in the back. Tighten those down. They were a little rusty, so they take a little while to bolt them back in there. The little covers on there just have one filler, so we'll snap that in using our belt molding installation tool. Then we'll throw our little cover in. Slide the tabs in the end. Clip it in. I think it's in there. And fold it down. Fold the back of the seats over it. And I want to see how it works. So it opens up. Push it down and it stays up. In case you want to get something out of there, you can slide it to the end. And you can slide it back down. It's got a couple different positions. Now we're going to change this trim panel above the glove box because it's got a bunch of scratches in it. Now, I'm not getting paid for this, but it did come with the used front end, so why not change it? I'm just going to end up throwing it away anyway, and it's pretty easy. Just pull the cover out of the side of the dash. There's one screw on the side, so we'll unscrew that. And we'll pop it off of there. Just wiggle and pull. And then toss it in the pile. And we have our used one, so we'll snap that on there. The old one was getting thrown away anyway, so might as well put the better looking one on. Only takes a few minutes to change it. The owner will never know unless he watches the videos. Put our screw back in there, click, and put the cover back on with the belt molding installation tool, of course. And we did get some owner's manuals with our used front end as well, so we'll throw that in there. Bonuses. Now we're going to get everything prepped for the body work and painting gnomes. There's a little damage on this quarter, so we're going to pull the taillight out. Two screws on the inside. And then just a little wiggle and pull pops out of the quarter panel. And we'll just unplug it. Once the taillight's out, we can pull a couple of screws and push pins to drop the bumper down a little bit. Now we'll head on to the back door. We'll pull the handle out, pop the little cap off, so we can get to the screw that holds our little cap on behind the handle. Pull that cap off of there, and we can slide the handle back and pull it off of there. One gasket on the back, one tab at each end that slides in. Now we'll unbolt our belt molding. One screw hidden behind the gasket in the back. And try not to lose it on the shop floor. And there's one screw up in the front. This one's pretty easy to get to. And now we'll just wiggle and pull till the belt molding comes off. We'll toss that in the back. Now we'll pull our front door apart. We'll pull the mirror off. There's a couple screws in the back and one plug. One screw in the back of the belt molding. Pop that off. Toss that in the car. And then we'll pop our cap off so we can get to the screw for the back of our door handle. Pull that out of there. I'll try anyway. Must be held on by whatever sticky stuff was all over the interior because it didn't want to come off. We'll pull the handle back. And there is one plug in there, so we'll disconnect it. And our Sorento is all ready for the painting gnomes.
So once they get their job done, I'll get it back and I can get my job done. We get the whole thing done. I did get a valve cover, so thank you guys for sending me the links. I was actually looking for somebody that had a valve cover in their possession that they weren't using because all the links he sent me, I had pretty much already been to. I tried everybody on carpart.com and most of the yards didn't want to pay somebody to pull it off and then ship it to me. So they were kind of worthless. If I wanted to pull it off myself, I could, but they weren't local to me. All the ones on eBay, there were quite a few wrong ones. There were a couple correct ones. I had messaged them before I even made that video, and they were the dealers with the same problem that my dealer is having. If they didn't have it in stock, they would have had to order it. I would have waited just as long and paid more money because I wouldn't have got the discount that I get through my dealer. So it made no sense to order one off eBay. I'd already been there. I did find one from someone locally. They got it to me. I got a new valve cover gasket from our parts store. So we're going to throw all that on next time. Maybe change the oil for the first time ever and get it out on the road. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.